Hello, everybody. This is Aaron Saft on the MR Runningpains podcast, episode 81. Today, I wanted to talk to Patrick Regan, but unfortunately, he wasn't feeling well this week. So we are going to record our episode and release that next week. Got a lot of exciting topics to cover with Pat. So I look forward to our conversation and hope he feels better. So this week, we're going to talk about you, the N of one, the experiment of one, and you, and how we can make you a better runner by recognizing what's best for you. Many times we are influenced by so much around us. It is amazing how much information is out there, how much is accessible to us, and what we pull from different sources. It's not always the greatest thing. I mean, it is great having information. It is great trying different things. That's for sure. But are they working? Have you assessed that? And how do you know if it's working? Hopefully you're seeing positive results. But if not, maybe it's time to try something else. So, let's start with training. Training, there's so many different ways that we can train. Maybe you just go out and run and you enjoy it, and that's important. That's super important. But maybe you want more out of it. So you've looked up online or you've asked a community, what should I do? Well, somebody else may tell you what worked for them. That may not necessarily work for you. It may. And you can try it, you can experiment, that's great. But what we see out there isn't always the best solution. I do not like cookie cutter plans. If you go online and all of a sudden they're like, here's a 100-mile training plan. Those things can be the worst things on earth. I've seen some of those plans where it calls for, so much mileage. You look at it and you're like, how on earth is somebody supposed to do that and still line up healthy and ready to race? I would be dead. There's no sense to it. There's no science to it. It's just, it's fluff. It's just all of this mileage, which it's just a lot of wasted training. You're going to make yourself fatigued and possibly injured. You may make it through and you may make it through the finish, but there's easier ways to go about it. So when you look at these cookie cutter programs, if they're not designed specifically for you, that's why I was doing plans where we talked and made sure that it was more specific to you. I stopped doing that just because I just didn't have time and energy to write individualized plans like that. They take a lot of time. And it's difficult in that regard. And I enjoy coaching on an individual basis and staying in touch with my runners. So I'm going to stick to what I like and what I can do to help others. And within my runners, I can't say I train them the same way. If they're not responding to a stimulus, we have to change things. And that's the same for you. If you're training and things aren't going accordingly, you need to change things, change the stimulus, change what you're doing. Recognize if you're tired, if you're fatigued. If things are working, that's tremendous. Your body usually works for about 4 to 6 weeks working, and we've talked about this in other episodes, about 4 to 6 weeks with a stimulus before it needs some change and to work something else, because that system gets maxed out. We've kind of worked it for its extended period, and it needs a new stimulus in order for you to stay fresh and to stay improving and not get too fatigued. So that's what we have to learn is, what is our body craving? What do we feel weak in? How can we improve on those weaknesses? And that's where you can look and find some workouts to help fine tune things. If you feel like you're not strong on the hills, work on your hills. Find some workouts. Trail Runner magazine, Ultra Running magazine, There's Outdoor Magazine. They all have great newsletters that come out. Here's some good workouts you can do. Those are great places to take things from. Mario Frioli, his morning shakeout newsletter. He always has a workout of the week. So many places, so many resources. Strava has workouts you can pull from. They have blogs. There's so many cool resources out there where you can pull workouts from to work on your specific weaknesses. So, look around, find things that you feel are accomplishable. There may be workouts that are just too far above your head. Make sure you're picking workouts that are for your ability level and for what you're trying to accomplish. What is the purpose of the workout? Is it set to improve what you're looking to improve? You have to coordinate those things to make sure that you're going to get the benefit from the workout that you want, that your body needs, so that you can keep training and improving. So be conscious of that. Don't just throw a workout in there because, I saw this workout the other day. Well, do you need that workout? Does that make sense for where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish? So, keep that in mind. Not all workouts are created equally or for what the intent that you need, the purpose you need it to serve. So look at those. Find your intent and match your needs. Okay. The other thing is, just because it's out there doesn't necessarily mean it's right or it's right for you. I read articles sometimes and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just, this person speculating. And, so make sure the source is good. Okay. Make sure the person has experience and knows what they're talking about. What are their credentials? Who do they work with? Some of these workouts are written for elites. Not all of us are elites. And not all of us need to be doing what elites do. Now you can take that and you can, take the workout and make it, easier, make it more manageable for you. Keep that in mind too. So if you see a workout and it is at an elite level, see if you can tone it down or reach out to the author of the article, the creator of the workout, and say, hey, this is what type of runner I am. If you were to write this workout for somebody else like myself, what changes would you make? Because a lot of times we see these workouts and we're like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I can't believe you do that. I'm going to try that. Not necessarily the best thing, right? Because it doesn't match who you are, what your ability level is. And in the end, it may make you more tired than fitter. And the goal is to get fitter. So be careful with those. Okay. And the next thing I would probably say is diet. We have so many different diets out there, and we see this and it has this benefit, and we hear from this athlete who's doing amazing things with this diet. I'm not here to trash any diet. Myself, because of health reasons, I've had to create more of a vegetarian diet. Believe me, it's not what personally I want. I would love to just have meat in moderation, and perhaps I can at some point. But because of health issues that I have to have a more vegetarian diet, which is hard. It is hard for me. So, it's great to want to improve and to be healthy and to get the maximum benefit from your diet. But I caution you here again, what is your source? Who is giving you this information? Who is telling you it's right for you? A consultation with a dietitian, a registered dietitian, is tremendous. Like that can resolve a lot of things and help you go to the right path. And they can tell you, is this going to be right for you? Or if not, what should you be doing to make it right for you? You can start with your primary care physician. Start with your family doctor. Tell them what you're experiencing, what you're thinking of, what you heard about certain things. They're supposed to stay up to speed with all of these new changes in diets, in the way we eat. That's the other thing. We hear about all of these different, should we be doing intermittent fasting? Should we be doing delayed eating? There's all different ways that we're trying to take in our calories in different timetables. Should we be doing that at all? That's a great question for professionals. It's not great to just take things away all of a sudden from your body that when it's used to it and needs it. So be careful with that. Consult professionals before you consider doing those things. Is your body ready for that? Is it right for that? Do you need that? Are you getting everything you need? Those are all questions that you really should consider, because it can affect your health in the wrong way. It can affect it in a negative way. So seek professionals. Ask questions of the professionals. Again, start with your primary care physician. And if they say, that could work for you, but we may need to watch it together, then, take them up on that. Create a food log, a food diary. Or again, reach out to a dietitian to help you along your path to make sure you're getting all of the nutrients that you need. Are you getting all the macronutrients that you need? Are you having that complete diet? Are you getting in the protein, calories, fat, all of those good things that your body needs? Are you really getting enough in you to sustain what you're trying to do in training, right? Training takes up so many calories. We burn so many calories from training. So if we don't have enough in our bodies, our performance is going to decline. We're going to feel fatigued, lethargic, because we don't have enough energy source to rely on to run. So make sure in whatever you choose to do that you choose to do so with guidance, because that's not what I know. In coaching, when people start asking me about that kind of thing, I refer them to the registered dietitian that you've heard on this podcast, Jake. He's tremendous. And if you need to talk to someone good and you want to talk to Jake, let me know. I'll help you reach out to him. He's a tremendous resource. He'll answer lots of questions. He's fantastic, even if it's just a consultation. So you make sure that you're on the right path. But, it's scary to think that, we could potentially lead ourselves down the wrong path just because we heard something that it was working for someone. I'm as influential as many people. I will be honest. And here's, proof of it. When I heard the book, Natural Born Heroes, Christopher McDougall's second book, author of Born to Run, his second book, Natural Born Heroes. The book talks about the Mediterranean diet and being more fat adapted, if you will, which, we hear a lot about this, especially as endurance athletes, of how fat could benefit us and how we have so much more fat than we do glycogen in our bodies. So, I said, well, that makes a lot of sense. Like, why wouldn't I do that? Well, I went down that road. But I went down that road without professional help. And, it thankfully didn't end in disaster, but I stopped before it did. I stopped before I lost too much weight. I wasn't getting the calories and, things I needed to sustain myself and my body. It's not right for everybody. It is not. It's just not right for everybody. And it can be. It can work. We see, these a lot of these professionals, not a lot, but we see professionals that it is working for, which is amazing. It takes a lot to do. That's the other part of it. But again, without seeking that professional help, I was leading myself down a dangerous path. The same thing happened when I read Scott Jurich's book, as another example. When I read Scott Jurich's book about his life as a vegan, I didn't take the vegan route, but I tried to go down the vegetarian route without help. And again, I wasn't getting my macros. I wasn't getting enough protein. I was eating way too many carbohydrates. And I struggled. I wasn't recovering. I was feeling really awful in my workouts. I gained weight because I was eating, again, too many carbohydrates, which happens in a vegetarian or vegan diet. It's hard enough to sustain and get, the calories you need through that diet, which again, here I am, but this time, as going in the vegetarian route, I took the route of seeking Jake. Jake came into my life after reading that Scott Jurek book and after I had tried my first round of vegetarianism. But going back to my doctor, the last 2 visits I've had with my doctor for 2 different reasons, he said, a vegetarian diet, because of my health problems, would be a better solution for you. And so, I reached out to Jake and I said, okay, I've been told this is the route I should take. Can you help me, so that I'm making sure that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm going down the right road, that I'm eating the right things, that I'm going to sustain the energy levels I need to carry out the workload that I put on myself, not only in my daily routine, but in my training. And Jake has been helping me. I'm awful about doing a food diary. I'll be honest. I'm really bad at it. But I know that I need to write it so that Jake knows what I'm doing, what I'm getting into me, and I'm making sure that I'm getting enough on a daily basis. And he makes suggestions based on what I send him, saying like, you could use more protein at breakfast. You could use less carbs during lunch. And here's how you can do that. Here's what you should do instead of eating all those carbs at lunch. So, having that professional help, it has really changed me in my life. I did a workout today, for instance, recording this on August 31st. If you look on Strava, I did 8 by 800 meters or 8 by half mile. We've been having the storms here, so I did it on the treadmill. I was told, Patrick Regan being my coach, he said, I want you to do this at marathon effort. Okay. So I put on my heart rate strap, got on my treadmill, did my warm up, did my strides. I set the treadmill pace to 640 pace. I said, from where I'm at, just coming off a Hard Rock, I was like, well, let's see what 640 pace feels like. I didn't get my heart rate above 138 BPM. So my max heart rate, I'm about to be 44 years old next month. My max heart rate is 176. So 138 would put me in about zone 3. I was running 640 pace in zone 3. I'm doing much better. That's my point here. I'm doing much better with my diet, with my health, because I'm taking care of myself. And, that's, it all comes. I mean, it's all part of training. That doesn't just come from training. It comes from the complete package. Are you keeping your stress low? Are you sleeping? Are you eating right? Are you hydrating? All of those things are key components here. So when you look at your diet, take it seriously. If you are looking at doing something different, do it with professional help. That's my message here. Thanks to my primary care physician, my family doctor, Dr. Judkins, he's been on here before. And thanks to Jake, I'm heading down the right path this time. I got some weight to lose. I'm being honest here. I picked up some weight on over COVID, about 14 pounds heavier than I was pre-COVID. So I'm trying to get back down. That came because I was eating too much sugar and too many carbs once again. And here I am back at that point where I just started, a few weeks ago. Well, I guess over a month ago now, going back to the vegetarianism, and things are starting to work back. I'm starting to regress my weight. It's coming down. I'm starting to feel better in my workouts, obviously. But I did that because I want to be the best person I can be. I want to be the healthiest person I can be. I want to be around here as long as I can for my kids and for my family and for my wife. So do the right thing and ask the right people for help. Same thing goes for race nutrition. Race nutrition, we see so much out there. There are so many products out on the market, and so many professionals use this and that. And, this is how they race. And it can go back to diet. Sure. We look at what diet says and we try to match what our diet's doing. And I loved what Meredith Terranova. That's Paul Terranova's wife, for those familiar with Paul. They're both amazing runners in their own right. But Meredith always says, do your diet, but whatever works for your race nutrition, whatever that is, that's separate, right? That you need to fuel the way your body needs, what it needs. So if fueling with, some more sugars is what the body is requiring, fuel with more sugars. That shouldn't count against what you're trying to do in life, because you're fueling your body to what it needs. Now, of course, we want to use, whatever whole foods and healthy foods we can. But if the body is needing sugars, if you're racing a 10K, or I won't say a 10K because you won't need as much nutrition, but if you're racing a marathon and you're racing faster than what your body can process in glycogen, you're going to need sugar. Okay, same thing goes if you're running a hard 50K. There's going to be a need for sugar in there. Your body needs sugar. So, but that's not my point here. My point is, learn what it is that your body does need. What does it fuel best off of? Does it fuel best off of fructose, glucose, maltodextrose? What is it fueling best off of? Does it fuel best off of fat? If not, then, don't use it. Use whatever works for you. When you look at these guys that are, typically a ketogenic diet, they're still fueling with sugar. There's, Jeff Browning is a huge advocate for ketosis, for fat burning, but he is a GU athlete. He drinks Roctane. He eats, GU gels. He has other as well that help with, fat burning and such, but those are his other fuel sources. Zach Bitter, he uses glucose as well. Again, he has his fat, but he also needs glucose. We all do. So don't be afraid to give your body what it needs. Fuel it with what it needs, especially in training. You got to train your gut. So if you're training and you're figuring out what works, you train that. Jason Koop just had 2 amazing episodes on GI distress, and they talk about on his Koopcast. Listen to those episodes. They're tremendous. I'm going to make a note right here. I'm going to put those in the show notes. There we go. It's tremendous episodes, because he talks about, with these great researchers, what's going on? What are you training? How are you training your gut? What are you doing in practice to make sure that you don't have GI distress in a race? And if you do have GI distress, what should you do? So, we got to train our gut. We got to, and that's what you have to figure out, what works for you. So you may see ads and you may want to try it. So try it. If it works, that's wonderful. If it doesn't, keep moving on. Try other things. It's hard. We buy something, we give it, a few good tries and it's just not working, but we bought it, so we want to keep using it until it's done. I think it's time to move on. See if somebody else wants to try it. Give it to somebody else. Pass it along if you don't want to throw it away. See if it works for somebody else, but keep working, keep finding those solutions. The other thing, another thing I'd like to talk about is shoes. There are so many shoes on the market, and there are so many shoe reviewers. And we hear about, this shoe is great, this shoe, but remember that they are different from you, just like everything I've been talking about here. Shoes are one of the most essential things for us in running, because we should be comfortable in them. But remember that everybody reviewing that shoe may not have the same, they do not have the same foot as you. Their foot can be a different shape, a different volume, a different width. So, you need to make sure that the person reviewing the shoe has a similar foot to what you have. That's the most important thing. Do they have the same type of arch you have? Do they have the same type of width of the foot that you have? Do they have the same volume of foot? And by volume of foot, it's how high is your foot? How much room does it take in the shoe from the bottom of the shoe to the top of the shoe? Does it, do they have a narrow heel? Do you have a narrow heel? Because it's going to fit them and function for them differently. How much do they weigh? That's if a man's reviewing a shoe and he weighs 180 pounds and you're a woman reading this or watching this review and you're 120 pounds, that's quite different. And, especially, not just the weight, but the gender. So, try to match to the closest you can to who you are to the reviewer. Otherwise, you're not really getting a review for what you're looking for. That shoe may fit you and function for you perfectly fine and do perfectly well. So be careful on the shoe reviews. The other thing is go in and try them. Go to a run shop. We've become so reliant on the internet to get us these things, sometimes, and I know that's, sometimes you don't have access to go try them on, but if you're someplace new and there's a run shop that you can go try on some shoes that you've been dying to try on for a while, go try those on. See what they feel like. See what feels best. You may find a totally different shoe that, the reviewers have said, I didn't like it for this reason, but it may work perfectly fine for you. So don't be afraid to try on shoes that others have said didn't work for them, because it may work for you. And the ads, the ad campaigns these days, they're amazing. Like you see these amazing runners, like we get caught up, especially with, what's the result of the shoe? Is it a super shoe? Not just because it's made with the super foam may not be a tremendous shoe for you for the trail. And it may be, who knows, but don't get caught up in the hype. Is it going to function the way you want it to? That's the main thing. Reality is in a trail race, that should be the last thing on your mind is it going to make you faster? Is it going to keep you safe? Does it have the traction you want? Does it move on the trail like you want it to? Because you don't want to be in a shoe that's uncomfortable and not providing what the shoe should provide. On the roads, that's a different story. On the roads, obviously it's a safer surface. If you want that speed, just make sure it fits and functions for you. I tried the one, I think it was the version 2 of the 4%, and the shoe just wasn't for me. It was too stiff, too rigid. My IT bands got really annoyed because my foot couldn't pronate to the neutral position to whatever position it needed to get to. So it just kind of locked up. So, you gotta do the cost benefit analysis. Does it have the benefit you want, and is it worth that benefit? It wasn't for me. I didn't enjoy being in pain because the shoe was too rigid for me. But obviously it works for a tremendous amount of other people. And again, this is N of 1, experiment of you. Is it going to work for you? That's the main thing. Is it comfortable for you? Don't worry about what the reviewers are saying. You may walk into a store and say, I've heard such bad reviews about this shoe. And they say, well, 5 out of 7 of us love this shoe. Here, try it on. And you may try it on and you may become 6 of 8. You may love that shoe. So don't be afraid of it. And the other thing, the last thing that I'll touch on for this N of 1 is races. Doing races. And I've kind of touched on this on other podcasts. We sometimes get caught up in what our peers, friends, others are racing and want to do the same races, but they may not mean the same thing to us. And when we talk about, the reason why are you doing this race? Well, that really filters down to our daily training. Like, if you are training for something that you're really not excited about, there's going to be days where it's going to be even harder to get yourself out there because you're like, why do I care? Like, I'm going to this race I really don't care about. So make sure the race means something to you. Make sure that you're excited by the race. We get caught up in trying to get into some of these races. And we may not even know if the race is great or not. It's just, I can think of a number of races in my head where, I went for this reason or that to qualify for another race, or, because, they said this is such a great race. I went, and their definition of a great race may have been that they loved the atmosphere, that being the aid stations or the finish line, celebrating with that community. My definition of a good race is a great course, a great experience of, the course itself, the journey on the trail and what's surrounding me on the trail, the views, that may be my definition. And, their definition was completely different. And I went there and ran, and I didn't enjoy the course, so I didn't enjoy the race. Yeah, I mean, the aid stations may have been great and post-race celebration, but that wasn't why I wanted to go to the race. I wanted to enjoy a course. So make sure that when you look into a race, it's meeting your definition of a good race. Think about what you want out of the race. Is it going to provide the experience that you want? The course itself. So it may be that you want more challenge out of a course. Is the course going to provide the challenge you want in the way you want? There's different challenges out there. The races in Florida right now are a challenge in their own regard, in the heat, just like Death Valley, doing Badwater. The heat is a challenge. That course has a number of challenges. Is that the challenges you want to face? Is that the kind of runner you are? I'm not a heat runner. I would suffer greatly at Badwater. I recognize that. Same thing at Barkley. Like, that's not my wheelhouse. Whenever you say you run ultras, people say, "Oh, that documentary? Have you seen that documentary?" And when you say Barkley, you're like, "Yeah, that's it. Are you doing that one?" I'm sure you've come across that. That's not my wheelhouse. I know that. Like, I have no interest in that event. Like, I mean, if somebody were doing it and asked me to crew for them, sure. But that's not something I want to do. That's not the wheelhouse that I feel comfortable with. So know what your wheelhouse is. Know what your race type is. Know what you enjoy, and make sure that race meets that criteria. You'll enjoy the race so much more if you do. So, in your N of one, try not to be as influenced by social media, which is tough. We have so many social media influencers out there. It's really the sport has totally changed. And that's something that Patrick and I are going to talk about in our podcast interview. Patrick is a professional runner. He has numerous sponsors, and I come from a bygone era of sponsored runners where social media was not what it is now. We didn't have the requirements as a sponsored athlete to be a marketing tool, if you will. I mean no negative light of that. That's what they have signed on to. When I signed my contract, that was not in there because we didn't have social media, but now they do. And that has affected our sport greatly. They are marketers for these brands, and the ambassadors that these companies are picking up. They are the same thing. You have to make posts. You are marketing for them. So, be careful with your social media. Be careful what the brands are asking of you if you are. But again, we're going to talk about this in Patrick's interview. But, I just don't want people to be used. Make sure you're getting what you want out of that relationship. Okay. And don't feel that you have to be, that brand all the time. Be you, be what's acceptable to you. Be a part of brands that you feel a tie to, a connection to, that have the same type of ideals as you. I think that's super important. A lot of times we're just so happy that they accepted us into this community, into this brand. We can say we're running for this brand, but do you know what the background on that brand is? Are they a company that has your same ideals? That's something worth talking about with your brand. We talked about ads, just watch how influenced you are. A lot of times, we see things and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. And then you think about, why do I have to have that? Do I already have something like that? Do I just want it because it's new and shiny? I'm guilty of that, of wanting new shiny things, new toys, if you will. And then be careful of what you read. Be careful what you listen to. This podcast, I'm giving you ideas. I'm just trying to make you think about things. Think of them in a different light. That's all. Just trying to make people think. Make sure that you're doing what's best for you. Reading articles, being skeptical. There's just because it's written doesn't mean it's correct. Ask questions. Don't just take it for what it is. Make sure that you see either scientific backing or, a rebuttal. Look for an article or a research that says the opposite. It's out there. Everybody has that. There is an opposite view to whatever you are reading or listening to. And so make sure that you're getting the right information. You're seeking the professional help and asking questions. Everybody, should be looking for improvements in their running. So make sure the things that you're doing lead you down that path to improvement. I certainly appreciate you guys listening. And again, this is about you. I say things that are working for me or things that I'm doing. That may not be what's right for you. Again, this is the experiment of you. Do what's going to work best for you. Okay? And if it's not working, make the change. If you're working with a coach and things aren't working, ask for change. If you're working with a nutritionist and things aren't going right, say, hey, listen, I'm not reaching my goal. What's going on? Can we do a deeper dive? If you're having a problem that's been unresolved, if you're having an injury or a niggle that really has been bugging you, seek the professional help. Go see a doctor. Go see a physical therapist. Find the right help. I know we love to ask our community on our social medias, I've got this problem. That's the wrong avenue. You're going to hear a million different things from a million different people that worked a million different ways for that individual. It's not you. You may have a totally different problem. Go seek out the professional help and get it resolved. Just want everybody to really take a moment to realize that you are an individual. You are completely different from everybody else. And you are worth seeking the right answers and finding the right solutions so that you can be the best you. Again, thank you for letting me go through this. I welcome questions, comments, concerns, rebuttals. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I like to refer to others that may. So think about you and what's going to do best for you. So next week, again, we'll have Patrick Regan on. I can't wait for that conversation. The newsletter, my monthly newsletter, September is here. So I'll be working on that within the next week and having that out. So if you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, please go on to my website, mrrunningpains.com. That's in the show notes, and subscribe. All old podcasts and newsletters are on the Connect With Me page on my website. So you can see old newsletters and listen to old podcasts there. We have a volunteering, yes, sorry. You have the capability to volunteer here pretty soon. I am going to volunteer at the Georgia Jewel. Initially, I was going to race the Cradle to Grave, but unfortunately, due to all the weather that we've had here in Western North Carolina, they canceled the race. So I am going to help out at Cruel Jewel. I'm going to run an aid station. So I'm going to be the aid station captain. I've made a call to volunteers. So this opportunity to volunteer is completely available. I'm sure we're going to have multiple shifts. So if you can volunteer at the Georgia Jewel, that is September 17th and 18th in Dalton, Georgia, that would be tremendous. Just looking for volunteers to help out at the aid stations. No prior experience necessary. I am completely happy to, assign roles and make sure you know what you're doing. We're there just to help the runners and have fun. So if you can volunteer, please reach out to me. You can connect with me on my website through the social media channels, Strava, whatever it may be. All of those options are on my website and in the show notes. So please connect with me if you can volunteer September 17th and 18th for the Georgia Jewel 100 miler. They are so gracious, Jenny and Franklin, that, since I am going to run one of their aid stations, they are going to come to Hellbender and run an aid station for us. So it's a great trade, great relationship. I'm very excited for that opportunity. So I want to thank the Bakers for doing all they do. Jenny is amazing and does amazing things for women's running and equality in our sport. If you haven't learned more about what they do, the Bakers, check out the Georgia Jewel. I think they do just tremendous things for the community, for the race, for gender equality and for equality within our sport. So I'm going to put their stuff in the show notes. But I hope some folks can come out and lend a hand. Be fun to meet some folks that I haven't met before, especially. But as always, I want to thank you guys for listening, for being a part of this podcast. Please share, subscribe, like this podcast on your listening platform. That's all great things. As always, to my Patreon supporters, thank you for being a part of this. If you can help on Patreon, the link is in the show notes as well as on my website. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me keep this going. I really appreciate those that have, and it's it goes a long way in keeping this up and running. Helps with the platform that I host this on, as well as record on, and keeping my website up to speed and up to date. So thank you guys so much for all your help. As I said, I can't wait for my next episode, Patrick Regan. But until then, keep running, my friends. Stay healthy, have fun, and be you.